Hey friends, today's episode is about a man who terrified many people. When he appeared on TV screens, children in England would scream in fear, and their parents would frantically change the channel, praying this character wouldn't somehow step through the screen and end up in their home. Because who he really was hard to understand. On one hand, he was human. On the other, some kind of otherworldly substance. He had strange movements, a crazy look in his eyes, and even when he just stood still, it made you uncomfortable. You felt like he was about to snap, chase after you, and drag you down to his dungeon. Friends, today's episode is about Keith Flint from the band The Prodigy. Keith, or as the English pronounce it, Kate, is one of the most striking figures of the music scene of the 90s and 2000s. He charged the air around the stage with such energy that you were literally sucked into the madness of dancing, into hard beats and total chaos within seconds. It seemed like Keith was just controlling you. The Prodigy are the undisputed kings of electronic and dance music. You can list different electronic artists from Moby to Chemical Brothers, but the Prodigy is the Prodigy, the real pillars of rave and electronic music. And it's all thanks to the genius musician Liam Howlett, who together with Keith Flint, Leroy Thornhill, and Maxim Reality marked a whole era and brought dance music out from the underground. Many criticized them, said they killed rave, that they were a manufactured project, that it was all image and they weren't real. But the Prodigy, despite all the criticism and bans on broadcasting their videos on television, kept pushing forward. And they pushed forward with absolutely mind-blowing music created by Howlett and the insane energy radiating from Keith Flint. Let's begin today's story. The story of Keith Flint. London in the 1960s. Our story begins in the second half of the 60s in London. What can you say about this time? The capital of Great Britain was really letting loose, or as journalists would write, swinging. After an extended period of harsh economic policy caused by World War II, Britain's economy begins to recover and rapidly rise. Against this backdrop, London transforms into the epicenter of youth culture, freedom, and fashion. Girls start wearing short dresses. Young guys dress in bright shirts and corduroy pants. Young people hang out in bars around the clock and party hard at concerts. London of that period becomes the world's musical capital. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, The Who, Pink Floyd, and the rising Jimi Hendrix all come from England in the 60s. Vogue editor-in-chief Diana Vreeland would even write that London of that period was the most swinging city in the world, but only the central part is partying, while the outskirts continue living as before. There, locals don't pay attention to the hype in the center. They visit classic pubs, go cheer for their favorite soccer teams, and work hard. Keith's parents. In the northeast of the capital, in a place called Redbridge, lives just such a classic family, Clive and Yvonne Flint. The man works as an engineer, and his wife takes care of the home and prepares to become a mother. In 1967, the couple has a daughter they name Sharon. When she's born, Clive starts working even more, and Yvonne completely takes on raising the child. On weekends, the Flints take the little one for walks and meet with friends. When Sharon turns 2, Clive and Yvonne tell her they have a big surprise. The little girl first thinks her parents bought her a new toy, but they announce that she's going to have a little brother. The Flints' second child is born on September 17th, 1969. Clive and Yvonne name him Keith Charles Flint. And this, dear friends, is the very person who in the 90s would become the main face of dance music. Keith Flint, together with like-minded people, would create the band The Prodigy, which wouldn't just emerge from Britain's underground clubs, but would sweep across the whole world as a real rave wave. The Prodigy would perform at the best music festivals and give crazy concerts in all the world's megacities. Keith Flint would experiment so radically with his image that children would fear his face, and the band's videos would even be banned from television. But the Prodigy would demolish absolutely all barriers and forever remain true pillars of rave culture. Moving to a new city. When Keith is born and discharged from the hospital, friends and relatives of the Flint family say the boy has an angelic appearance, a charming smile, light blonde hair, and big eyes. In general, for the first years, Keith really does behave like an angel. He doesn't cry and falls asleep peacefully. But as soon as he starts walking, everything drastically changes. Out of nowhere, the boy develops absolutely boundless energy, which he channels into all kinds of mischief. He races around the house and destroys everything in his path. The Flints are initially charmed by this, but then truly start going crazy from the child's hyperactivity. It's impossible to do anything with him. No matter how many books you read to him, no matter what game you try to engage him with, he can't sit still in one place. His character also shows in games. When Keith plays something with his sister or cousins and loses, he screams loudly, then demands to replay everything or change the rules so he can win. When his parents give him a bicycle, the boy races around the street with the neighborhood boys around the clock and always wants to go faster than them. Often, these antics end badly. Keith falls somewhere, scrapes his knees bloody, and on top of that gets punished by his parents. When the boy turns 6, the whole family moves. The Flint family's new home becomes the city of Chelmsford in Essex County. There, Clive opens a small office called Technical Consulting and spends all his time at the office. This causes fights in the family. Yvonne constantly says she doesn't have the strength to watch the children, especially Keith. And Clive always counters that he's the only breadwinner in the house, so she shouldn't give him grief. Nevertheless, he enrolls Keith in horseback riding, hoping that at least through this hobby, the child would learn to control himself and his emotions. Soon, this works. Keith quickly gets comfortable in the saddle and even participates in children's competitions where he wins prizes. Horseback riding does calm him down a bit, dyslexia and rebellion. But this doesn't last long. When the boy is sent to school, everything goes wrong again. Keith Flint has difficulty reading textbooks and can't properly complete a single assignment. He can barely write anything in his notebook. The boy himself admits that all the letters jump in front of his eyes, but teachers, as often happens, blame it all on restlessness. At home, because of poor grades, Keith's parents blow up at him. They constantly yell and demand he study harder. Only in adulthood would Keith learn that the cause of all his problems was dyslexia, a disorder that many children face and which teachers and parents often don't take into account. It's easier for many to blame everything on laziness than to really understand the problem. If you type in a search engine, list of celebrities with dyslexia, you'll be very surprised at how many great people have faced this disorder. Practically a third of Hollywood and the global entertainment industry. A prominent example is Tom Cruise, who often talks about the problem and donates a lot of money to foundations helping people with dyslexia. As for Keith Flint, he would never be able to read normally and would only get to literature in the age of audiobooks. At some point, Keith decides that if he can't do anything about himself and no one believes that letters jump for him, then there's no point in proving anything to anyone. So he just gives up on studying. He starts skipping classes and wandering around the city with friends, and sometimes goes wandering alone. These walks often stretch until late evening, because the boy doesn't want to return home where they constantly yell at him. On top of this, his parents also fight heavily with each other. Day after day, new fights erupt in the Flint home, happening in front of the children. When Keith becomes a teenager, he becomes so angry at his parents that as a protest, he shaves a mohawk on his head. By age 14, the boy becomes a real troubled teenager who starts directing all his anger at the world toward teachers and peers. To separate him from other children, Flint is sent to a special school where they try to calm him with hypnosis. However, this doesn't work either. So after a year, they just expel him. But the problems don't end there. The boy's rebellion reaches such a degree that he starts abusing alcohol and picking fights with passersby. All this leads to Clive putting him under house arrest for a while, and Keith, in confinement, starts endlessly listening to the Jam records and banging his head against the wall. In general, Keith's childhood can definitely be called hellish. Expelled from school, behavioral chaos, endless fights at home, which later lead to the breakup of the Flint family. Parents' divorce and life with father. In the mid-80s, Keith's parents decide to divorce. By circumstances, Sister Sharon stays living with their mother, and the boy with Father Clive. Keith blames him for all the troubles, including the family's breakup. But Clive seems not to care at all. He wants to start life with a clean slate, and soon after, the divorce brings home a new woman named Doreen. Keith's father bluntly announces that she'll be his new mom. On top of this, her children from her first marriage will move into their house with her, teenagers named Ian and Gary. From this information, Keith Flint flies into a complete rage and fights with his father even more. However, he can't do anything about the new circumstances. When the father moves in with his new lover and her children, Keith deliberately doesn't pay attention to them. But after some time, Doreen's older son, a guy named Gary, finds common ground with Keith. They start listening to records together and hanging around the neighborhood. Gary introduces Keith to youth counterculture and tells him about various parties he often attends. All these stories thrill Keith, and very soon he finds himself at one of the parties. There, Flint suddenly discovers the ability to release all his energy through dancing. The music captures him so strongly that the guy dances non-stop and attends new parties with enviable regularity. Besides dancing, Keith develops another passion: motorcycles. His stepbrother Gary teaches Flint to ride a bike. When Keith first pulls the throttle, he experiences such an incredible rush of adrenaline that he truly goes crazy from the feeling of freedom, speed, and danger that the bike gives. Looking ahead, I want to say that Flint's passion for motorcycles would last his whole life. So much so that he would even create his own motorsport team, which would several times become prize winner at Isle of Man races. After another fierce argument with his father, Clive, in a fit of rage, kicks Keith out of the house. The guy himself isn't upset about this at all, and without making any plans for life, education, or career, just sets off to travel the world. First, Keith travels around England, where he works as a roofer or something else, and in his free time from work parties at informal parties and crashes with new friends. Then after Europe, Flint decides to go further and ends up in Israel. There he sees the country and works as a market vendor. This doesn't bring much money, but Flint's needs are also minimal: to have somewhere to sleep, something to eat, and to move on. In total, Keith wanders the world like this for a whole year, but then decides to return home. When he returns to Great Britain, he stays with his acquaintances in the city of Braintree, and there again gets work as a roofer. Keith dives headfirst into parties, which are becoming even more numerous in the country, and their character is changing overall. At that moment in England, the so-called second summer of love is happening. Raves are gaining huge popularity, and acid house music comes to the forefront, which thousands of young people start raving to. The emergence of acid house. Where did acid house even come from? The most common version is that DJs in Chicago invented this style of music, and then acid house moved to Europe, and the second summer of love made the genre the most fashionable among youth. So fashionable that this style of music even got its own logo, the well-known yellow smiley face. There's also a version that all this electronic music that literally captured England came from Berlin clubs. They started raving there before Americans brought all this to Europe. There are those who think house was invented in England, but whatever versions are out there are more supporters that the origins came from American DJs. Then English musicians simply picked it up and developed it. Electronic music was accessible to everyone who could even slightly handle technology. It was enough to find a cool piece in some song, sample it, add a suitable beat on top, and that's it. The track is ready. Thanks to this simplicity, by the end of the 80s, Britain already had a good 100 DJs who were making this very new music. But despite being simple to create, very quickly it encountered serious problems. The thing is that acid house was super popular among youth who used illegal substances. The government started reacting to this. First, they banned playing such music on the radio, so as not to cause any desires in people or promote what shouldn't be promoted. Then police started raiding parties and shutting them down. But this, of course, didn't stop underground adherents. They still organized their raves and continued to profess the philosophy of peace, love, unity, and respect. The police fought hard against all this, but unsuccessfully. Young people found secret places, and they organized powerful dance parties. It's at one of these illegal raves that Keith Flint meets local DJ Liam Howlett. The guys strike up a conversation, and after Keith says that Liam's music is just cosmic, he replies that he wants to create a full band, not just perform as a DJ. Flint accepts this proposal with enthusiasm. He, together with friend Leroy Thornhill, joins the new collective. A little later, they're joined by MC named Maxim Reality and a dancer girl, Sharky. As for the band's name, Howlett decides to take it from the Moog Prodigy synthesizer, which he uses to create his tracks. And to somehow distinguish from the instrument, Liam adds the definite article to the name. Thus, the Prodigy is born. A band that would completely change perceptions about electronic music and elevate it to new heights. The Prodigy would become true kings of the underground, then emerge from the underground and conquer the whole world. After the band gives several performances, quite successful ones, Liam Howlett approaches the other members and says he's recorded several tracks that could be sent to record companies. Everyone agrees with his idea, and very soon the label XL Recordings signs a contract with the Prodigy. In 1991, the guys released their first single called Charlie. It causes a sensation and reaches third place in the British charts. After this, the musicians go on their first big tour of the United Kingdom, and a little later, release several more singles that also hit the British charts. And in September 1992, the Prodigy released their debut album called Experience. It immediately shoots to second place in the UK Albums Chart and soon gets gold status. This is, of course, a reward for sales. The band becomes a notable phenomenon on the electronic scene, and it's fair to note that the main engine of the Prodigy's music is Liam Howlett. He's responsible for absolutely the entire creative process. Liam writes tracks, mixes them, and is the band's main producer. But who are the other members and what's their function? To put it straight, their main task is to go wild on stage. After all, the Prodigy is primarily a live band. Keith Flint, together with Leroy, dance like crazy. Maxim raps and pumps up the crowd, and Sharky also dances, adding beauty and sexuality to the stage. The Prodigy give dozens of concerts in Great Britain and also perform at the largest raves. And here, the most interesting thing is that the Prodigy managed to attract both techno fans and hardcore lovers and guys who prefer ambient and hip-hop adherents. That is, Howlett with his tracks covers absolutely different audiences and quickly becomes one of the main heroes of British underground. Music for the jilted generation. 2 years later, in 1994, the Prodigy released their second album called Music for the Jilted Generation. And although many critics say the band is just exploiting the same formula as on their debut, the album takes first place in the British chart. The musicians themselves go on a world tour and end up in Australia, Japan, and the United States, where they perform at major festivals. And journalists start saying louder that the Prodigy are bringing electronic music out of the underground, and at their concerts you see more mosh pits than during metal band performances. The Prodigy fans don't just come to concerts to dance. They go wild in harsh slams, lose shoes and clothes, and all this to absolutely hellish beats. But the press doesn't just write about the music. Journalists pay attention to Keith Flint. He's shirtless, racing around the stage like crazy, thrashing in dance, throwing himself into the crowd, and screaming at the audience, making them get even more pumped. After 2 years of touring comes a period of calm. The Prodigy take a break to record a new album. While creating the record, Howlett gets an excellent idea: to take Keith Flint as a vocalist. Before this, the guy just went wild on stage but never sang. And after Keith records a part for a new track, Liam understands this is just a bomb. Flint's powerful, aggressive voice perfectly fits the band's new sound, Firestarter. And so in 1996, the Prodigy released the single Firestarter, and it has the effect of an exploding bomb. It takes first place in the British chart and stays there for 30 weeks. The single itself becomes the best-selling in Great Britain, and the video for it so frightens viewers that parents write complaints to TV channels. And radio stations refuse to broadcast the track because of the word Firestarter. They think the song might encourage youth to commit arson. The video's visuals really do look aggressive and frightening. Keith Flint with a colored mohawk, piercings and crazy eyes, rushes around an abandoned subway tunnel. He screams at the camera, makes strange movements, and looks like a real psychopath. The British press calls him an evil clown, devil, and madman. The BBC generally refuses to show the video before 9 in the evening so children won't see it. But all this hype only fuels interest in the band. The Prodigy become the main sensation of of the British music scene. And Keith Flint turns into a real star. His face appears on the covers of all music magazines. The guy who was once considered a loser without a future becomes one of the most recognizable people in the music world. The Fat of the Land. In 1997, the Prodigy released their third album, The Fat of the Land, and it becomes a real triumph. The record takes first place in charts of 22 countries, including the USA. The album sells 10 million copies worldwide. The Prodigy become one of the most successful British bands of all time. The singles Breathe and Smack My Bitch Up also explode the charts. But the video for Smack My Bitch Up caused especially much noise. It was completely banned from television because of explicit scenes of violence, drugs, and sex. Director Jonas Åkerlund shot the video in first person, where the main character gets drunk, fights, uses illegal substances, and has sex. And at the end, it turns out that a girl was doing all this. The video caused a huge scandal, but this only added to the band's popularity. The Prodigy go on a massive world tour. They perform on the main stages of major festivals: Glastonbury, Reading, Rock am Ring. Everywhere they're greeted like real rock stars. Complete chaos happens at concerts. People jump, push, scream, and Keith Flint becomes a real devil of the stage. He changes his image, dyes his hair different colors, gets tattoos, pierces everything possible. But behind the scenes, Keith is a completely different person. Friends and acquaintances describe him as kind, shy, and very vulnerable. He loves animals, is interested in gardening, and collects antiques. But the public only sees the crazy monster from the stage. By the end of the 90s, the Prodigy become one of the most influential bands in the world. They proved that electronic music can be just as powerful and energetic as rock. They erased boundaries between genres and created their unique style, which hundreds of bands around the world copied, always outnumbered, never outgunned. After several years of non-stop touring, the band takes a break. The musicians are tired of each other and decide to work on their own projects. Keith Flint starts a career as a motorcycle racer. He joins the Red Bull team and participates in competitions. Flint rides the bike so cool that he often surpasses many professionals. However, during one race, trying to overtake an opponent, he loses control and crashes into a barrier at full speed. After the impact, Flint shows no signs of life for some time. He's urgently taken to the hospital, where doctors diagnose a head injury and knee ligament damage. Concert guitarist Giz Butt starts jamming with other bands. After several warnings, Liam Howlett announces that the Prodigy no longer need his services. Maxim Reality distances himself from the collective, releasing his own recordings under a pseudonym. And then Leroy Thornhill leaves too, announcing a solo career. The press starts burying the Prodigy, but Liam Howlett continues working. In 2004, he releases the Prodigy's fourth album, Always Outnumbered, Never Outgunned. Guest musicians participate in the recording, including actress Juliette Lewis. But Keith Flint is nowhere. Keith creates his side project, Flint. He invites musicians and records tracks, then assembles a new collective, Clever Brains Fryin', and tries to achieve success experimenting with electronic music. But both projects flop. The public that once loved Keith as part of the Prodigy doesn't accept his solo work. During this period, Keith goes through hard times. He starts a romance with TV presenter Gail Porter. Reporters examine them almost under a microscope. Some write that Gail and Keith are Beauty and the Beast. From such attention and paparazzi chases, Flint closes in on himself, takes illegal substances, and shows Porter his dark side. After a series of scandals, Keith and Gail break up. The girl goes to guitarist of popular band, top loader, Dan Hipgrave, and Keith locks himself in his house and starts going crazy. Invaders must die. In the mid-2000s, Keith decides to pull himself together. He puts his personal life in order. Even before all the experiments with side projects, he met Japanese model and DJ Mayumi Kai. After several years of relationship, he proposes to her. The couple has a modest but rock and roll wedding, after which Keith seems to find himself again. The long break between the remaining members of the Prodigy benefits everyone. They decide to forget past quarrels and together with guest musicians create a new album, Invaders Must Die. It comes out in 2009 and once again takes leading positions in the UK charts. Devoted fans start noting that the guys aren't the same as before. Despite continuing to tour and perform at festivals, they've become a bit calmer. With 20 years passing since the band's creation, the Prodigy members are long past being boys. They're all approaching 40. Keith Flint gradually calms down. In the early 2010s, he owns a luxurious mansion, collects sports bikes, and digs in his garden. But the main thing is different. He loves his wife very much, with whom they get 2 dogs, and gets rid of bad habits related to using illegal substances. At 40 years old, Keith Flint, for the first time, finds complete harmony with himself and does only what he likes. Fine for Firestarter, he founds the racing team, Team Traction Control. At first, Flint manages absolutely all processes in it and races on the track himself. But in 2013, he leaves his racing career and remains a manager investing money in the team's development. In 2014, Keith Flint buys his own pub in Essex County. Keith puts his whole soul into this establishment. He watches how the staff works, asks guests' opinions, and always lights the fireplace. Over time, the pub's fame gains such momentum that many visitors just come there to see the superstar and shout words from the track, Firestarter. Flint starts getting really annoyed by this, and he comes up with one clever move. He puts a huge jar at the entrance into which everyone who wants to shout Firestarter must throw a coin. This way, a decent amount of money accumulates monthly, which is given to the establishment staff and sometimes invested in the building's restoration. The Day is My Enemy. In 2015, Liam Howlett, Keith Flint, and Maxim Reality released the Prodigy's 6th studio album called The Day is My Enemy. It, by good old tradition, on release day, takes first place in the UK chart. All 6 albums released by the band over all time became #1 in England. This, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't happened with any other band. Well, maybe only the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. In 2018, the Prodigy released their 7th album called No Tourists. It appears on shelves November 2nd and also takes the leading position in the national chart. Despite the band being already 28 years old, the guys continue giving concerts and showing who the real kings of electronic music are. Over so many years, all the Prodigy members have become wealthy people. When you have people's love, fame, and money, life has basically worked out, and there's nothing to worry about. However, this isn't quite true, since besides professional life, there's also personal. Divorced from Mayumi, Keith Flint suddenly gets divorced from his wife, Mayumi Kai. Why this happened? Different versions still circulate. Some think that Keith and Mayumi had been having fights for a long time, and the couple had been going through a serious family crisis lately. Others think that Flint's bad habits were to blame, which returned to his life. He relapsed and started taking illegal substances again. Others say that Mayumi had an affair on the side. There are many versions of the divorce between Keith and his wife, but whatever they were, the bitter truth is that Mayumi decides to leave Flint. In early 2019, she files for divorce. All British tabloids pick up the news about this. The breakup topic is even discussed on TV shows, but Flint doesn't give any comments to anyone and just silently goes through the crisis. He increasingly stays alone, takes illegal substances, and drinks alcohol. The divorce proceedings hit hard not only on his psychological state, but also economically, because this is England, and a marriage concluded in Great Britain gives the other half the right to claim a huge part of the property when it's dissolved. And here, many might say that such a right exists in many countries of the world. This is absolutely true. But don't forget that Britain has the strictest court. If somewhere with the help of cool lawyers, you can drag out the process, or even win it altogether. In England, you can't do this. The divorce proceedings between Flint and Mayumi Kai hit Keith's position so hard that he even puts his beloved house up for sale, which he considered his temple. But money isn't the main thing for him. He's more upset about the breakup with his wife itself. Flint calls her several times and begs her to come back, but Mayumi categorically stands her ground and says that their relationship is over. Then she completely stops communicating with Keith and leaves for Japan. After this, Flint starts spiraling even stronger into a hellish vortex of depression. Never stay alone. Yet this doesn't manifest publicly. Flint continues performing with the Prodigy, and in February 2019, they give a concert in New Zealand. On March 2nd, Keith participates in a 5-kilometer race in Chelmsford. He covers the distance in 21 minutes and gets captured by photographers. Then Keith Flint goes to his house and stays there alone. No one can reach Keith. He doesn't answer the phone, and none of his friends know where he could have gone. A whole day passes like this until one of his buddies decides to come to that very house and check if everything's okay. When he arrives there and crosses the threshold, he sees something terrible. Alcohol bottles are scattered around the house. Music is playing. Keith Flint is dead. He took his own life. Friends, we won't tell you how Keith Flint took his own life because YouTube's algorithms will immediately slap us with an 18+ restriction for that. And actually, it doesn't matter how and what. What's important and sad is something else. On March 4th, 2019, the world lost a very bright dancer, a very bright musician. What happened didn't make sense, because Keith was always such a crazy devil of the stage. It seemed like he was the one shaping fate. Looking at him, it was impossible to think that inside this person, there could be some kind of breakdown capable of leading him to death. This is a story about how no one will ever understand what's really going on with you. Because when you're a big artist, everyone will only expect one thing from you, a bright show. And no one will ask, "Hey man, how are you really? Is everything okay? Maybe you need help with something?" Despite 6 years having passed since Flint's death, it's still sad and very hurtful that on that fateful day, he was alone. In 2020, I wrote a column that I want to voice now. It was a post after watching a film about the sad fate of another musician I endlessly love, Michael Hutchence from the band INXS. The post was like this: "If you're feeling bad, if you're depressed, when it seems like everything's over, that there'll be nothing more, don't stay alone. Scream for help, write on social media, call friends. Talk to each other. Friends, never stay alone. Farewell to Keith Flint." Keith Flint's death shocks literally everyone around. Absolutely all mass media, internet publications compete to report the tragic news. Liam Howlett writes the following on his page: "I can't believe I'm saying this. Our brother Keith Flint is no more. I'm shocked, enraged, confused, and my heart is broken." After this, Keith's ardent fans find the culprit of the tragedy. It becomes Mayumi Kai. Fans believe that if not for the divorce in courts, Keith would be alive. Fans find some page on social media and unleash all their anger in comments, cursing Mayumi for Flint's death. However, it later turns out this isn't Keith's ex-wife's page. In the chaos and confusion, people are just writing comments to a completely different girl, not at all connected to Flint's life. Real chaos ensues. Kai herself doesn't get in touch. Only later, a comment appears for the media that she's completely broken and shocked in Japan. But fans don't calm down. They continue blaming only her for everything. In many countries around the world, fans bring flowers, candles, and photos with Keith Flint to the British Embassy. The farewell to the legend is scheduled for March 29th. On this day, thousands of the Prodigy fans come to the city of Braintree to say goodbye to their idol. The city police specifically take the strictest measures for this, so that, God forbid, nothing happens. Cordons are set up, and law enforcement services monitor the entire perimeter. The funeral procession itself appears during the day. Fans meet it with loud applause and songs, and no one holds back tears. The coffin with the singer's body is carried to the doors of the Church of St. Mary the Virgin to a system of a down composition, and Keith Flint's beloved dog follows the farewell column. After the closed ceremony within the church walls, the musician's body is committed to the earth. He's buried in the local cemetery in Braintree. People cover the grave with flowers and walk around the city for a long time, loudly listening to the Prodigy. As one journalist would later write, Keith Flint's funeral became a real rave of remembrance. This is how the story ends of one of the brightest musicians of modern times. A musician who had a hellish childhood, whom many didn't take seriously and said he had no future. And it turned out he had exactly that, because Keith Flint did what he truly liked and put his whole soul into it, whether it was the Prodigy or motorcycle racing. And despite many fearing his face and image, in reality, as journalists write, he was the kindest and friendliest guy in the world. The Prodigy without Keith. After Flint's death, the Prodigy musicians didn't perform for a long time. They canceled the remaining concerts in the tour and their performance at Glastonbury. But after time, still returned to music and continued the common cause. Now, at many of the Prodigy concerts, Keith's projection appears on screens as a tribute. And despite him being gone for 6 whole years already, he's still with the band